Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
You're listening to Real Talk Radio live on Remax Palm Realty's mobile tower right here in Northport, Florida. Struggle today is that it is a beautiful day out there, and I've got three very special sponsors: Remax Palm Realty, Lions Title and Trust, and also Hardin Insurance Group. Special shout out to them and others, Zoe's Pizza and so forth, for their great participation throughout. I've got a very special guest in the house today. I hope you all appreciate the fact. And Robin, thanks for your comment for the excellent show idea. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and quite to my surprise, we have a special guest from our drone division, and it's I think super excited about this opportunity. So I'm going to let Mike go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Mike Laden. I'm a commander at Northport Police Department. I oversee our Special Operations Division, and part of Special Operations Division is the drone unit. So excited to be here. Awesome.
And you know, I know that we're out and about with getting communications out. We briefly talked about that at the beginning, but you guys are actively trying to get the information out to the citizens of Northport, whether it be Newcomers Day or other events that are out there, and kind of not really show off, but educate people on what the drone capability is for the safety of the police department itself and the citizens, correct?
Yeah, there's a big stigma when you hear government and drones, and it's kind of always been one of those topics that ignites people. And I think we do probably 40, 50 public demonstrations a year to let people know exactly what we're about and what we're doing. Everyone hears government drones and they think, oh my gosh, they're spying on us. They're watching me while I'm mowing my lawn or swimming. I'm going to let you in on a big secret. We don't really care what you're doing in your backyard. We're just here trying to either find missing people. We find a lot of hidden or suspects that like to hide from the police. A lot of missing kids with autism, developmental disabilities, and things like that.
You know, I got asked that question today. I put in the data in this morning, and somebody said, "What are you going to talk about?" And and then I started to tell them, you know, about where I had met you guys, and we talked a little bit at one of the events, and they're like, why would the police department even need a drone? What would they use it for? Can you kind of highlight for us what it is that your department does to assist on different scenarios? Can you kind of highlight those for us?
I can. I think it'd be super useful to kind of take you back to the beginning, right around 2018 when we started this initiative. My son, who was probably turning 6 or 7 at the time, got one of those sharper image drones. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, you know, Jake, let me take it up. Let me take it for a spin. And I immediately dumped it right in our pool. So I got a little frustrated with that because I'm kind of a competitive person. So we went and got another one. And as I was flying it around, I thought, you know, this could be super useful. And I looked into it. A lot of other agencies were doing it, especially Polk County. They were kind of like the originators of the drone program for law enforcement here in Florida. So probably around 2018, we purchased a very low-level, cheaper drone and started kind of looking into the legalities of using it. And it ends up, it's a force multiplier. Having a 300 or 400 foot view of a scene helps the command staff, helps the sergeant on scene make decisions a lot quicker. And as we move towards the future, the buzzword nowadays is drone as a first responder, or DFR program. And a lot of agencies in Florida, a lot of big agencies like New York Police Department, San Francisco PD, they've already implemented these programs where they send a drone to a scene before an actual human being gets there. And they're seeing a lot of good results with it.
Well, you know, I look at it on a safety factor too. There are certain scenarios where if you have a gunman out or a situation like a hostage situation, uh, yeah, that visual from the sky from different angles can be very advantageous, couldn't it?
Absolutely, and part of the job that our team does, I have 14 pilots that I work with that are all licensed through the FAA. They get their Part 107 license, so they're fully legal to fly as a government entity. Um, a big part of what they do is tactical drone applications. So when there's active shooter, when there's a situation with a gun involved, if there's a search warrant being served on a house, we're usually the first ones to deploy and try and get oversight on the situation. And a lot of data can be uh, garnered from just the drone being out there. Again, it gives a different perspective that most people don't normally have.
When you're using a drone, you still have communications with other police officers by what you see as an active officer. You know, you're at a different perspective, so to speak. When you're even if you were on a chase, you would be able to see a range of things that other officers may be running into that they're unaware of, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, just a use case from just a week ago, we had a subject who had committed a battery on a family member and fled into the woods nearby, and was prone to violence and had made suicidal statements. And luckily, one of my guys was nearby and deployed the drone and located him inside of the woods and was able to basically guide officers to where that person was hiding. He had buried himself under a whole bunch of tree branches and brush. But thanks to the technology on the drone, we were able to locate him and take him into custody safely.
Well, one of the comments from Robin, it's search and rescue, which you just kind of talked about. But are they equipped with night vision and are they heat seeking?
Sure. So the drones that we deploy now, they're called Skydio X10s. They're an American-made company, completely NDAA compliant, which we can get into later. The whole Chinese versus American drones that had a significant hiccup for us back a couple of years ago. But these drones have a 640 thermal sensor on it. So the drone itself has 3 cameras. One camera is a thermal sensor, which basically takes the emissivity from the ground or a person's body, translates it into a pixelated color on a screen, and differentiates around the camera around it. It's making millions of temperature readings, per second to give us that thermal overlay so we can see where they're at. We also have a optical camera that's just basically like your clear view regular camera. And then we have a telescopic camera on it, which we can zoom about 128 times. So say from the Northport Police Department, if I were to put it up at 300 feet, I could see traffic on the interstate.
Well, and talking about that for a little bit, that is another way of controlling things a lot different than we had in the past. You would have to deploy other police, maybe even other police departments from other cities to kind of gauge what's happening on 75 in Iraq. Now you can put that drone up in the air and you pretty much have instant feedback to help maybe guide some traffic situations or close an exit up the road a bit or down the road. Can you talk about how you guys utilize those to, just because you brought that kind of thing in, how do you use them to your advantage? Because I know we're also kind of short-staffed at times. We're still looking for police officers. I think we're no different than any other city in that regard, but it really can help the manpower on the ground, can't it?
It sure can. Like a prime example of that would be our point setup parade that, went on, I think it was December of last year. We typically get anywhere between 8 to 10,000 people that attend this parade. And if you've been to it, parking is scarce and it's tough to get in there. So traffic naturally becomes a big disaster. In 2021 or 22, the last time we ran it, we it took us almost an hour and a half to clear the parking lot just to get people out on the roadway. And of course, the roadways were jammed for another hour after that. During this year's Poinsettia Parade, we had 2 drone pilots that were operating for traffic management, and their broadcast was coming right back into the incident command center, so we could see exactly what was going on. We were able to clear the parking lot in 14 minutes. So it makes a big difference when it comes to traffic control.
That's amazing, and to be able to assist that way and get that control back. Can you give us an idea how long that would have taken you before?
Oh, it probably would have been an hour or more. Again, with that 200 to 300 foot view, we're able to see problems before they start happening. So as we start to see a traffic buildup or a particular parking lot starting to dump out with a lot of people, we can shift our resources on the ground to kind of accommodate the overflow of traffic hitting a particular area. So it makes the job a lot easier for the sergeants and commanders that are working it, because they can make informed decisions instead of being on the ground level and just taking a guess at where the traffic's going to go.
So I have another question coming in from Robin, but before I ask it, the schedule, because you're a drone unit, can you talk about how many hours of flight time and if you're not utilizing it for the 8 hours that you're on or 12-hour shift that you're on, how is that deployed?
So we don't have a standalone drone unit. Some other agencies around here have started that with like a 4, 6, 8 person team that works, 7 days a week. Right now, the way we operate, again, because of the staffing and everything, we have members of our patrol division, members of our detective division, our set team, our agricultural unit, our traffic unit. We have a pilot that's kind of embedded in each one of those specialty units. And, our goal is to create 24-hour day, 7-day week coverage with the drones from when they're needed. So it's not like this is their full-time job. When they come to work in the morning or in the evening, they stop by the station, check out a drone, throw it in the back of their car, and then use it as needed. As it stands right now, we're averaging 2.5 flights a day. I believe if I look at the data real quick, I can tell you from January 1 to today, we have 217 flights with 53.8 hours of flight time. So it just keeps increasing. The need for it keeps increasing. And luckily, we've had the support of both the city, the commission, the city manager, and our chiefs to allow us to keep up with this endeavor.
Fantastic. What's the support within the department for what your guys are doing with the drone in your department now? What kind of support do you have within?
So I could tell you that Hurricane, I believe it was Irma, was 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. That was the first time we kind of really showcased how useful a drone could be, because we were able to fly into flooded areas that vehicles couldn't reach and find people. Hurricane Ian around 2022, I think, is really where we cemented with this city the fact that this unit needed to stay and that it needed to be funded. I think we flew 350 flights just in the first 7 days of Hurricane Ian. And it was so much so that we were going out on high water craft like our Bearcat or some of the fire department brush trucks and flying a drone off of those vehicles to areas that the brush trucks and the Bearcat couldn't find. I remember being in our Bearcat flying off of the North Sumter area and finding people standing on their roofs waving for help, or in their driveways waving once they saw a drone, and we were able to find a boat to take them from their house out to dry land. So it definitely, that's the search and rescue side of it. The flip side of it, that the work that we do for the city, is water control structures. During Hurricane Ian, darn near every water control structure was damaged, and they're pretty expensive, but they do an important job. And when they get jammed up with downed trees and stuff like that, it creates a lot of problems as far as water flow. The other half of our flights were damage assessment flights, checking the roofs of the PDs, city buildings, doing a sweep of the commercial sector to see what it was like, just checking the roads out to see if they were even able to be traveled. But then a big portion of it was checking out water control structures, because we can fly a drone 5 inches away from water control structure and see very clearly what the problem is or what the damage is, and where our public works system has to come in and clear out, these jams.
Fantastic. How about for illegal dumping or ATV activity? That was kind of where Robin's question was going. I wanted to kind of build into that, but we have a lot of AT writing, whether it be legal or illegal. I'll let you educate the public on that. But along with that illegal dumping, we had a lot of that. I don't know that I think we're getting better at that, but I'm sure we still have it in some of the areas.
Yeah. I got to give kudos to our agricultural officer, Dominic Caravella, because between him and our previous one, Officer Dustin Cohen, they put out a lot of those problems. A lot of the illegal dumping that was happening out east, people are afraid to dump out there now. And it's through their hard work and their constant patrols and their good detective work, being able to track down the people who are doing this. But as far as flying for those type of crimes, we have a very strict list for why we can fly. And just to kind of summarize it, besides like a terrorist activity, traffic management, and a crime in progress where someone's life or property is in danger or someone's in danger of being harmed, we can't just fly willy-nilly without a search warrant. So like to patrol for illegal dumpers or ATV ridings, it doesn't fit the criteria, and we wouldn't be allowed to fly for it unless we applied for a search warrant, which would be difficult to obtain for a general area of ATV riders.
That you've got a lot of situations there that you've talked about. I kind of want to go back to I think one of the most important things is the weather down here. We've got the famous hurricanes, and you said you use the drones to help monitor the street flow, and that was post the event, I'm sure. But again, I'm going to go back to manpower. Doesn't that help and ease that the need for more manpower on the streets when you have the drone up? Because isn't it quick? There's no stop signs, there's no red lights up there. So once you're up there, you're pretty much checking everything out pretty diligently, right?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. Almost the entirety of the city of Northport is what's considered Class G airspace, which is unregulated airspace. So we don't have an airport that's close enough that causes us to have any issues with the drones. We do have 2 helipads in the city where Bay Flight comes in and out of, but every pilot's equipped with an ADSB monitor or an app that notifies them when there's aircraft in the area. And as a matter of fact, our drones are in our last update have an ADSB, which is ADSB is basically like the broadcasting device for every aircraft that's flown in the United States. That basically gives off the location to anybody that has a receiver for it. So on our drones, as we're flying, we have a border around us that where if an aircraft were to enter into it, say a helicopter or an airplane, we would be notified. And obviously they have the right of way all the time compared to a small UAV. So we always will either ground them or take them down below 50 feet to avoid any issues. But as far as manpower, yeah, I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. It's a force multiplier. We can check roadways for flooding in a matter of seconds or minutes compared to having to send cars out all over the place to just test how deep places are.
Absolutely. And you've got, when we're talking about manpower in that situation, I know from experience of one being in the OC and getting information. Do you guys fly? When's your flight time in a storm? I know there's regulations of when we have to have men off the street. I'm sure with the wind and everything else, you've got a threshold of when you can utilize that drone, correct?
Sure. So there's manufacturer specs, right? And they say a certain thing, but luckily I've built a pretty good relationship up with the company that manufactures these drones. So for this last hurricane, I can't remember who it was, Milton or Helene. Our city GIS department needed some measurements of a waterway off of Estates Drive, and the winds were already up at 30, 35 miles an hour with torrential downpour. So I was able to call the software engineer that I work with and say, "Hey, these are the weather conditions. What do you think?" And he said, "Well, we won't know unless we test it. This would be a great time to test it. So if you crash it, we'll just send you another one." So we took off in 30-mile-an-hour winds with a torrential downpour, and I can tell you the video stream from it was wild. The drone stayed in the air. We got the mission completed. It wasn't pretty landing it. One of my pilots ended up having to run down the street in the pouring rain trying to get it to land because some of the sensors had gotten wet, but we got it on the ground, and it lived to see another day.
How's that unit acting today? Or did they replace it?
We didn't even have to replace it. So these are water resistant to a certain point, and I believe the company may have been able to update their specs based off of our flight, because when I'm telling you it was coming down like cats and dogs, it was difficult to see in front of you, not even with the drone. But again, there's tricks of the trade when you're flying in rain and all that, where you find the wind direction, you find the way the rain's moving, you flip the drone backwards to it so it's not facing the rain, you keep the camera pointed down, and your lens doesn't get wet, you can still see. So it's, we do training every single month. We have a 10 or 12 hour training day every month of the year, and we go, actually we're in April, so we're about getting ready for hurricane season. And a lot of our trainings for the next couple of months are going to be hurricane related trainings, like damage assessment, flying in high winds and stuff like that.
So we're kind of, and there's a couple more comments with Robin, but kind of want to build into it. But we're kind of limited on our drone usage right now. We really don't have what other cities may have. How many drones do we occupy at this present time?
So operationally, we have 5 drones that work that have that 640 thermal sensor. And to just give you a quick note about why that's important, the 640 thermal camera is basically the only camera that you can get a real good thermal reading for human bodies in woods. Everything below that, it's very difficult to discern because the pixelation is much lower. So we have 5 640 thermal cameras, or drones with thermal cameras. And we have another drone that is specifically used for traffic crash, mapping, 3D mapping, and orthographics. So we have 6 drones that are operational, 5 that we use for patrol type cases.
Fantastic. So these other organizations that are out there, the other cities that have like a drone unit that's specific towards maybe a higher level. And I think that's our goal here, isn't it? Is to step up that game a little bit each time we expand that unit.
Yeah, I think the end goal of mine before I retire is to hopefully get that full-time drone unit flying. Now, with averaging 2 or 3 flights a day, based on the needs of the department, I can't, in my mind, justify asking the chief to dedicate 4 people to a full-time unit because we're only flying twice a day. As the city grows and the usage comes up, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because these pilots have second job or a primary job, and being a drone pilot's their secondary job. Sometimes they can't fly just because of what they're doing. I think in the future, in the next year or 2, if we can get enough staffing to put a test unit out and see what the results will be, I guarantee you the numbers will be a lot higher.
So I think I'll jump in with these comments from Robin. They could be utilized in that regards. Not that they're not today, and you can kind of clarify this.
Yeah, they're both pilots. Part of our policy for our conservation officers is that they have to get their Part 107 license and be a drone pilot. So both Officer Cohen, who is now a canine officer, and Officer Caravella, who is our conservation officer, have their license, and they are on the drone team as well.
So do you utilize these for monitoring in the higher crime areas at all right now?
No, that would be illegal. Both in Florida State or in Florida State statute. So back in 20,
Can go over that real quick so people understand that, because I think that fear factor you talked about before. Not that I want to highlight this for the criminals that are in the world out there, but for the regular everyday citizens that think that you're up in the air monitoring them. Go ahead.
yeah, we can't fly without a reason, and it has to fit one of the criteria that's outlined in Florida State statute. So again, even though I might say there's a bad drug area that I'd like to fly over, I can't do it. It's part of the state statute that criminalizes illegal videoing, and it sets the bar for what Florida police departments and sheriff's offices can do. Again, it's a whole anti-government spying on you thing, and I don't think it's a bad idea. I actually agree with it. Not that I know anybody that has, utilized a drone in a negative way in law enforcement, but as long as you put the rules in there and there's a punishment for it, when someone does finally cross that line, at least they'll be held accountable.
Yeah, we all have this vision in our head of what drones are capable of and should be used for. And I had an experience over here in Lakeside Plantation where somebody flew over the lake and kind of hovered in the back doors of our villas. And daggone well that what they were looking to see what was there. And I don't know, I clearly did not know who was doing it, but as soon as I went outside, it turned around and took off and left. So people do not follow the rules, but you guys, being in law enforcement, yeah, there's all kinds of state regulations that you guys follow every day in your everyday job, let alone your own. But the combination of the two, how does your department feel now that they have that ability to go up? But there has to be a difference between the four of the pilots that you have on what they were capable of doing before and now how they assist today with a drone and that experience that it brings into the department. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can. And I just want to comment real quickly about your backyard drone experiment there. Believe it or not, private recreational pilots have a lot more rights than we do when it comes to where they can and can't fly and when they can fly. So recreational pilots are allowed to kind of just fly wherever. I mean, there's a list of rules that they have to abide by if their drone weighs a certain amount. But other than that, they're not as stringently looked at as law enforcement drones. So I've fielded a million questions about drones flying in my backyard or over the beach or over the pool or whatever. It's difficult to track them down, but we can, if we do find someone flying in violation of an FAA regulation, we can send them over to the FAA for their enforcement part of it, which is normally a regulatory type thing.
So I gotta throw Deputy Chief out there a little bit. He says, "Good job, Commander. Looking sharp too." So, it's great to have a great team around you. And Deputy Chief Morales is awesome. And I'm sure you feel the same way. If not, please say that right now. No, I'm joking, Chris. But
yeah, I'll put the nail in my coffin. No problem.
No doubt.
DC is awesome when it comes to technology, and he has supported this drone unit from its creation years ago. And every year, that we try and put in for budgetary items, be it cables, propellers, batteries, whatever, he's always very supportive of it and tries to get us what he can. And I'll tell you, his ability to negotiate is it's beyond anything I've seen. Like, I don't know how this guy's not a CEO of some sort of business, because the man is like the Donald Trump of negotiating.
That's awesome. And he's a good guy on top of it. How about that?
Mm-hmm. He's just excited to see me in a uniform. I don't wear a uniform very often, so I'm sure he's looking at it to see if I missed anything that's on here. But look, I got DC. I got everything on, I think. Badge.
So, hey, well, he's not used to seeing you like this, and you look good. So, you might have to wear that every day now.
Yeah, I might have just might have stepped in it there a little bit.
That's all right. So, at the end of the day, though, how we are innovative. First off, we are very innovative at the police department. We are being looked at up and down the coast. Uh, how many other cities have come in and talked about the drone unit with you?
A lot, and part of part of what I do as special operations commander is obviously I work with a lot of different departments in the area, and the drone field is kind of a tight knit group. I have friends all over the state that are in these units, and we usually meet up at conferences or networking events, just to kind of bounce best practices off each other. There's a group called the Flow Group, which is the Florida Coordination Group for drones, and we meet every month. I could tell you, I've helped Cape Coral PD, Punta Gorda PD, Charlotte County, Sarasota Police Department, Venice Police Department, all kind of get off the ground with their own drone units, and a lot of them are doing real good right now.
I'm going to give a shout out because the citizens of Northport need to wake up. We need the new police building. One for the size of it and the size of our city and the growth that we're seeing here, but two, we've outgrown the other building. Not your 2 cents, my 2 cents there, Commander, but people need to wake up and realize that the safety of our town is essential, and that we do more. We do more with less. We do more with less now, and we need to keep that up. And the reality is that the citizens of Northport's safety is paramount. And as we continue to grow, we need to stay focused on that. And as we do these things, you guys are highlighting. I talk about public works and what we do with the recycle and that program, and how essential that is to all of these things that we talk about, because we tend in the leadership on down, we tend to lead, and other cities are coming to us and asking us for input on how to catch up with what we're doing. We're kind of blessed, though. We're a young community as far as city age goes, and we're adapting to the current, where they've adapted to the past and trying to get to the current, and that's a hard transition. Can you talk about a little bit of what the relationships are that you have with these other cities, because they are all older? They're trying to get into this, and being that we're newer and we're building our police department and its arsenal, we're doing it with a different point of view.
Yeah, I'll tell you one of the most entertaining things for me in this position as a leader in the drone industry here for this department is watching newer departments, or I should say other departments, grow a new drone program. And I always like to tell them, call me 24 hours a day. I've made every mistake there is. I've crashed every drone there is. Learn from me, because I've made the mistakes so that you don't have to. And we have like Cape Coral PD, their team with I believe it's Lieutenant Cody. They come all the way up here every couple months to sit in on one of our trainings. The guys from Sarasota Police Department, Sarasota Sheriff's Office, they come down and train with us too. And, previous to them having these units, we would be called out to help them out. So it wouldn't be uncommon for the Sheriff's Office to, ask to send one of our drone units or a couple of our drone units up to help them out. We've done it for Venice Police Department. At the last 2 or 3 years, we've been the, UAV program for their big Christmas parade, which obviously is gigantic. I'm sure you've been to it out on the island.
Mhm.
It's a massive endeavor, and there's a lot of people there. So now they've purchased their drones, and they're trained up, and they're starting to do it themselves. And it's awesome to see them not need us anymore, because they're. I always say sometimes you have to fly before you can crawl, and they have absolutely started taking off with it.
So another question from Robin: Are any of these other counties, can they lease our drone unit? Is that something? I I kind of think of this as the borrowing of resource. I don't think we ever, like for Ian or anything like that, where people send their police officers down. There's never. It's always a brotherly or sisterly, I guess, assistance during that emergency time frame. It's not a payment system, right?
No, I mean, I would think the last time I helped Sarasota out, I just asked our lieutenant for a can of Zin pouches. That was my cost, and we did that jokingly. But no, I think it all goes under mutual aid agreements. So because again, they may have used our drones here and there, but we use their helicopter a whole bunch too.
Sure.
And it really is just about helping each other out. That's during Ian, we had so many departments: Tampa, Jupiter, Port St. Lucie. We had people from all over the state come help us out, and I don't think it wouldn't sit with me if we started charging people for the kind of things that they come and help us out with.
Well, I know that we've had the kidnapping here years back, and it's kind of near and dear to Chris, on making sure that never happens, or Deputy Morales. And I see a value in a drone if you were going from county to county, and or city to city, because there's some relationships, that if you go from Northport into Charlotte County, I think that's gotten better over the time, and the transition to the sheriff department down there is a lot different now. But a hit and run, anything like that, where there's a high speed chase, I know we've got the helicopter, we can get that going, but that immediacy of the drone is totally different too, isn't it?
It is, and there's a big cost difference, right? So you say our drone is anywhere; these drones can go anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000, depending on what features you get on them. That's a one-time cost, and to charge a battery probably costs about 13 or 14 cents worth of electricity. Whereas a helicopter is a multi-million-dollar purchase. Maintenance is probably hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't know what fuel prices are like now, but I know the last time I did a presentation on this, they were saying it was about $6,000 to $8,000 in fuel. There's a big cost difference in utilizing drones versus helicopters. Now, if the DC is still here and he wants to buy us a helicopter, I'll certainly fly it for you. But if not, I'll stick with drones. That's cool too.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a good drone. What is the measurement of our drones?
You talk about like wingspan?
Yeah, because you see some of these at Best Buy in different places, and they're really a couple hands, feet apart, 18 inches maybe. What's ours look like in reality?
So ours are a little bit bigger than what you would see from like the standard DJI products, because I think everybody's familiar when you talk about drones. DJI is the big ape in the room. Like, it is got the highest market share, and it is used worldwide, both in law enforcement and the military. Ours are a little bit bigger, so it doesn't exactly have a wingspan, but when you spread the propellers out, the arms out on the propellers, you're looking about 20 inches, probably 20 square inches, 24 square inches in total.
Okay.
It weighs less than 4 pounds. Flies anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. It all depends on weather conditions and heat and stuff like that. Depends on how hard you're pushing it. Again, our drones have an unlimited range, right? So they are, you can fly them basically as far as the battery will take you. But one thing you got to remember is, as far out as you fly, you have to have enough battery to get back and land. So with Northport being 104 square miles, we've talked about this DFR program, the drone as a first responder, and it'd be difficult to implement because basically what they're doing, like the city of New York, Tampa PD, Miami PD, what they're doing is throwing these docks on top of their buildings, and then they're able to take off from the top of their docks and fly to wherever the call is. That's tough when you're 104 square miles. You know, it's a little bit easier when you're 12 square miles, like a city like Punta Gorda, that's, you know, got a smaller footprint. But for us, you would need docks all over the place, and that becomes an expensive venture. So for the foreseeable future, these guys riding with the drones in the back of their cars is probably going to do the trick for us.
So you another quick question. As our city continues to grow and the population increases, there are so many uses that the drones would be extremely useful for. Would you guys consider an interdepartmental relationship?
What an awesome question, because, you know, I just finished emailing our citywide training coordinator, and in May we're putting on a drone training class for every city department that's going to be utilizing drones in the future. So I know I work with Public Works very often, our Parks and Recs, our Communication Division, our Economic Development Division, and where we used to have to go fly missions for them. So if they needed, you know, a stretch of land mapped or photographed for like a city GIS thing, now these departments are going to start getting their own drones. And I think part of that, again, not so they can learn from my mistakes, if we can all get together, my team and then all the prospective pilots from Public Works and Road and Drainage and all that, get together in a classroom and spend a couple hours going over very basic flight skill things, safety skills, FAA regulations, state and city laws. They're in the process of doing it. I know some of them have already purchased drones. So the key now is all of us getting on the same page so that we don't have a mishap.
You know, I think it's going to be essential for us to have a division that operates 24/7. And we're getting there. We are definitely getting there. And I think with the new police department, and when that building is completed, you guys will have not just the building space to do it, but there's going to be a need to look at our city from above. The key to that statement was what you said. We're not 12 square miles. We're 104. I can't imagine what the numbers, and if you talk budget, and you just talk putting boots on the ground every day. You talked about how much you save from a helicopter. I can't imagine being able to do some things and cut costs and not cut safety. This is essential for safety in a lot of situations in bigger cities.
Yeah, absolutely. In California, you know, every abandoned 911 phone call that comes out, like in San Francisco, you know, they're flying a drone out to the scene first. And if there's people there, because, you know, a lot of these cell phones, if you shake them real hard, they'll call 911. If you drop it, it calls 911. Sometimes people pocket dial it. So, you know, abandoned 911 calls it's a big thing. And we get a lot of them here too. San Francisco is sending a drone out to the scene to see if anyone's there. And if they can clear it without having to send a police officer there, that's even better. We have the capability on our drones to be able to talk to people. So I could take a drone and land it in front of somebody, and it has a speaker and a microphone on it. And I could have a conversation with somebody through a drone from 500,000 feet away.
And I got to tell you, I think that one of the things that is going to be very important in the near future with that is going to be facial recognition.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a lot of scenarios there where we see dual police cars on a pullover, and that drone could be a third, but it's in the sky. And I got to tell you, if you had 2 police cars pull you over and you had a drone in the air, uh, getting out of that scenario, no matter what you try to do, is secondary at that point. I think it's a whole nother level of security, not for just the citizens, but for the police officers. And we've got to think about that. Every citizen here that has to vote in the very near future about our police headquarters should first think about safety and not just their own. The men in blue, they're out there doing their thing, and it's vital that we keep you guys safe and sound, and that we don't have any deaths. And as a city grows, unfortunately, so does the crime rate if we're not prepared for it.
I can't opine on.
Go ahead.
I can't opine on the need for or anything regarding a new station, but I can tell you the facts of it. And the place where I store my drones is a closet that is so full that I have to turn sideways to walk through it to be able to pull the drones out. And when I need to do maintenance on the drones, I typically have to bring them back to my office and clear a desk off so I could take the drone apart and then reassemble it. It's it's cramped for sure.
It is. And we look at things. I think we all look at things through a different lens until it's upon us. And it's the fact that we're strong at what we're doing. If other cities are coming and looking at us, our crime rate is at a good level, and maintaining it is your job. That is what you guys do, is you maintain that. But it's tougher to do every day in cramped space. And I don't even want to just talk about cramped space. I want to say that it's tough to do because of the fact that even if we weren't innovative in thinking about the drone side of things, look at the utilization for the safety of other citizens during Ian or all these other floods that we've had, where you're able to go up in the air and go down these roads. A lot of these big trucks weren't even here yet, and you guys were already scouring the city to make sure we didn't have bodies floating or different things out there in harm's way during that time frame, weren't you?
Yeah. And, with the drone, we did, unfortunately, we were able to find, people that were deceased in the waterways and, up against the brush in vehicles. I've said it probably 6 times now, it's a force multiplier. And luckily the city sees that, because during, when we get ready for our pre-storm situations, they will give me 4 or 5 drone pilots and dedicate them to me. And that's pulling patrol officers off the road. That's pulling detectives off the road. But pre-storm, we go out and we take measurements of everything before the storm even comes in, just to get an idea of how bad it's going to be. One of our GIS coordinators, John Castleback, absolute genius, way, way smarter than I'll ever be. We send him these images. We bring the images to him, and he's able to tell just from the metadata on the photos what the water direction is going to be, how fast it's rising, how quickly it's egressing, where there's issues with the water control structures. So it's a team effort, and our drone team kind of gets attached, not necessarily with the PD, but kind of like a combined ICS, where the city manager's office and the fire department and public works all kind of just give us missions throughout the day. And then, from daylight to daybreak, we're out there, flying and taking measurements.
The fact that we think forward, and I think we spend a lot of time thinking forward in this city, because we're the leading examples for a lot of transitioning cities that have been stuck in the same routine. And that's not a knock on anyone. It's that technology for an older city is hard to change into. funding wise, different sources. We've been blessed to have leadership in this town that thinks forward as far as utilizing technology and changing outcomes of the future, and being new. Like I said, we have the ability to adjust funding, and we've done that with great support. And Deputy Chief and Chief are all over it. Chief Titus is all over it. Like I said, Public Works is doing their thing, and leadership within our city is embracing all of it. And, you can be a master negotiator, Deputy Chief Morales, but when you've got the proof of success, and you guys analyze things to the 10th degree to make sure that when you are asking for something, you're going to deliver. That's the important part of the ask. That's why I'm behind the police department itself as a whole, and the fire department. Our fire chief goes out of his way to plan our city out to make sure that we all have fire departments in strategic locations to make sure that our fire rating is good, our insurance rating is good. Go look at some other cities. They're still struggling to figure out how to do it. The nice thing is we're struggling to figure out how to do it right for the right cost frame and the best advantage for our citizens. And I give you guys a lot of kudos. I'm behind you guys 110%. I can't find another percent to give you, but there's a lot of citizens that should watch this and learn and listen to what you guys are talking about, because of the pride that goes into what you're doing is just amplified into new adventures, into law enforcement's future, which is for you, it's the drone unit.
Yep. I can tell you just like in the corporate world, there's a ROI on everything. Like, you have to measure the return on investment on everything that you do. As far as the drone units go, it's a heavy investment up front. And especially now with the Chinese drone ban, the state of Florida not allowing those things, things got a lot more expensive right after that. And, there's still a big pushback from a lot of different agencies around Florida about that. The law is the law. And, luckily when I presented that to our deputy chief and chief, they were all about it. And we got on board with, having fully made American drones at a higher cost, and initially at a much lesser product. Luckily, the company we use has, every year they come out with new stuff and increase the technology. And we have a product now I'm very confident in, that if someone were to go missing, or if we had a homicide suspect on the loose, or we had a hiker missing in the woods, we've got a really good rate of finding people within a certain time frame. So I could tell you, hands down, that these drones have saved lives before. They've prevented crimes. They've found suspects. Especially, we have a large community of people with developmental disabilities that tend to wander, whether it be autism or Down syndrome, Parkinson's, people that don't have neurotypical mental faculties, and they go off wandering. And we just recently found one over in the Sable Trace area that had been wandering for 2 hours. And one of my pilots put up and found her laying down on the shore next to a lake, very close to an alligator infested lake, and was able to direct officers in there. So the return on investment, I don't know what kind of price you put on a life, but I could tell you that it's worth the cost of these drones for sure. And then, the networking that we have, I think if DC's still on here, I want to tell him thank you, because he's sending me to a conference, a drone conference, to get best practices from people all over the United States, Israel, and some other countries. So I appreciate your approval on that, sir.
Fantastic.
It's still a maybe, but I'm hoping this puts it over.
Well, you know what? Since you told me on the air, I'm not going to let anybody know. So
thank you.
If he's watching, we'll just act like nothing was said.
It was just between you and I.
Send him, Chris. Send him. He said, "I am?" ? That's
not a good sign.
Yeah. So he said, "Just kidding." So anyway, it was a pleasure talking with you. I appreciate it, Robin. Thanks for chiming in as normal. We've got we had several people in there with likes, and I appreciate that. The most important thing, if you're watching now, is share the information. The more that everyone gets engaged with our police departments, our fire departments, public works, leadership within the city, the stronger the city will be. And the one thing I will say before I go off the air is uh, the ones that don't believe everything the city says, don't listen to them. They're rebel rousers, and they should be not devalued, but educate yourself. Don't count on someone else to give you information through their eyes. Don't be scared to listen to a commander, a deputy chief, a city representative, commission. They're here to assist and educate people along the way. If you have doubt, get yourself educated and ask the question. Robin does. She's really good at it. Chuck English does. A lot of the regulars that are out there doing their thing. So be an active participant. Get yourself educated, and support Blue and support the police department and the fire department. It's their assets to our community. And Commander, great show. Appreciate your insight. I'd love to have you back on. And maybe we'll do it local one day and watch that thing take off and land and give some visual too.
You let me know when. I'll put you behind the sticks. We'll get you to crash one.
All right, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Have a great day, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio saying thanks to the police department for being there.